The following is an exclusive presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for K-State athletics. This is Wildcat Insider with the Mercury sports editor Tim Everson and KMAN sports director Mitch Fortner.
Well, that was better, I would say. Yeah, all around. Much better performance with the Cats returning home. Game 2 of Big 12 play, a top 25 matchup at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. The Wildcats wax Oklahoma State for a 42-20 final. A garbage time touchdown for Oklahoma State made the margin a little bit closer. Cats about midway through the second quarter really turn things up, and they blow out the Cowboys the rest of the way. Welcome to Wildcat Insider. Across from me, just a few feet, is Tim Everson from the Manhattan Mercury. I'm Mitch Fortner, and AJ Shaw with us as well. He's across the glass. If you want to call us, he will take your calls at 785-537-1350. That's the same number. You can also text us. If you don't want to come on air, don't want to call us, you can text us a question or comment. Again, the phone number is 785-537-1350. K-State now 4-1, 1-1 in Big 12 play. Again, with the 22-point victory over the Pokes. How about this? It's for the first time since Mike Gundy's first season at Oklahoma State, the Cowboys start 0-2 in Big 12 play. But they have faced, the two teams out of the gate were the two teams that were preseason picked to go to Arlington for the Big 12 championship game. And that's K-State and Utah. But Utah playing without Cam Rising. K-State, for the most part, playing at full strength. All right, Tim, a lot to break down. What a win that was for K-State back at Bill Snyder Family Stadium, the 17th consecutive sellout. Celebrate Ag Day. Over 51,000 were in attendance for an 11 a.m. kickoff. Let's start with Avery Johnson, because it was him who I noticed on the very first play that he was here to play a little bit more aggressive. He was here to play a little bit more downfield with the passing game. Right away, play one, Connor Riley draws up a passing play. And it was felt like kind of a bootleg type of play. A couple of guys running to the right as K-State was going from south to north. Avery moves over to his right a little bit, and he delivers a strike to Ty Bowman, which a lot of things maybe to unpack right there with Ty Bowman getting the start. Ty got quite a bit of playing time in this one. I saw from the very get-go that Avery was playing, I don't know if confident was the word at that point, but they were ready to get him going with the passing game. I think the confidence really showed up after the interception that he threw. Yeah,
Coach Kleiman said after the game, and when we got to talk to him a little earlier today, that brewing confidence seemed to start midweek heading in. He was really, really accurate. He said something like 32 of 36 and then like a Thursday practice, and was just dialed in. And as Coach Kleiman said, that carries over whenever you're playing that well in practice. You play like you practice. And so I think Connor Riley did an excellent job. Dumbing it down makes it sound derogatory, but making it doable, not trying to throw too much at him, just make this short throw, and then eventually things really started to add up, and then he looked in. I mean, by the time we got into the third quarter, he was in command. I mean, he looked like the real deal.
He throws that interception, and there was a run of 3 straight possessions where K-State, after they scored their opening touchdown of the game, they drive right down the field. They did have to convert for 2 fourth-down plays. They had to go score that touchdown, which I thought was gutsy on one of them because it was like third and medium, maybe third and long, and they convert. It seemed like kind of an easy play to convert, and Jaden Jackson was very involved on that opening drive. But they were throwing it quite a bit with Avery, and he delivered some strikes. The accuracy wasn't perfect. And it goes back to probably a couple of plays, but the one that stood out the most was really just the one mistake he made all day, and that was the interception that he airmailed over the head of DJ Giddens. Luckily for K-State, and this is a big hand to the K-State defense, they do not allow Oklahoma State to score, but there was a stretch of 3 drives, just nothing happening. Or they would go pick up a chunk of yards on the first play, and then the next 3 plays are nothing going, and you're punting it away. Yeah, it was just maybe it was that interception. It was like Avery just had enough of these mistakes, checked in, and he was almost lights out the rest of the way, and that takes us to the wide receivers. You'd mentioned it on PowerCat Game Day. I think this was maybe your what to watch for. You mentioned it a couple of times. It's like, what do I want to see in this game against Oklahoma State? Some vertical passing. The wide receivers to be more involved. Oklahoma State was going to give up some plays. That's just statistically what they've been doing. I expected it to happen. I think I had said that I do expect K-State to they'll have the opportunity to open up this passing game against Oklahoma State. So I wanted to get your take on what you saw from the wide receivers. And heck, I mean, we have to do some homework. I haven't done this yet, but the top 3 receivers were wide receivers. Honestly, when's the last time that's happened?
It's been a long
because
time.
of the involvement of the tight ends and running backs in the passing game. I think it's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. I think that first off, they got guys out there who were going to get open and who were going to catch the ball when it got thrown at them, which has not been the case all season. Well, you mentioned Ty Bowman already. A very underrated catch to kind of start things off and kind of move things in that direction. But, Jace Brown has the big 55-yard touchdown. Was his great self. Keegan Johnson, really good, had that big 30-yard reception in the second half. And then underrated, Jaden Jackson showed that he can be a dependable guy and a nice number 4, number 3 guy out there for you. That's what they're looking for. That's what they need, is they just need guys that they can depend on and that Avery has chemistry with. And it seems like we'll see if we'll see if they're able to carry it over. But it seems like they finally found a group that they can kind of move forward with a little bit. And sure, they'll mix some other guys out there. Dante Cephas was out there. Sterling Lockett was out there for a little bit. There were other guys. But you need a core of guys that you can depend on. And then you have all the tight end stuff. And then, that's gravy at that point.
I mean, 4 tight ends have now scored touchdowns.
It's insane.
If you told me, well 4 different tight ends score this season for K-State, I'm like, okay, maybe at the end of the regular season into the bowl game, yeah, maybe. 5 games in, that's pretty fun. I think that's a lot of fun that you're getting Will Ancio, who's 4th on the depth chart, at least the way I have it in my mind. They don't go 4 deep on the depth chart, I believe, at tight end. Maybe they do, because I think do they have 2 tight ends listed?
They have 2 tight end spots, on the depth chart, yeah.
So Will Ancio would be up there then. But I kind of consider him 4th in line right now. And they go to a pop pass to him. It wasn't the prettiest thing.
No.
It was a little bit messy. The throw was a little high. But shout out to Will. Former basketball player, goes up and gets the rebound. This time, but it's a football, and he rips it down, and it's a 6-point touchdown.
Avery said Matt Wells told him, you're either going to throw it to him or you're going to throw it out the back of the end zone. And that's what happened. I mean, it was high, but he got there, and he knew, and that's just another guy. He has that past with him from being a Wichita guy. It's just that's the kind of thing that just needs to slowly start kind of surrounding Avery, and that's where the confidence part of it is coming from.
559 yards of total offense, the most since the TCU game last year. There's a lot of mosts in this game since the TCU game last year because K-State just destroyed TCU on offense. I'll give you the receiver numbers here. The top 3 receivers, Jaden Jackson, he had a career-high 5 catches, 55 yards. 4 catches, 78 yards for Jace Brown. He had a 55-yard catch. The defender fell down and he walks into the end zone. And then 29 yards after catch for Keegan Johnson, who had 52 total yards and also on 4 catches. Dylan Edwards with a couple of catches, 1 apiece for Giddens, Bowman, Oakley, which was a touchdown. Will Ancio was a touchdown as well. And then the other part of the offense, and this has just been, such a strong point for K-State's offense, and it's still underrated. The feeling that I get, it's still underrated, where K-State runs for 300 yards, and it's led by DJ Giddens, who ran for 287 and a score. He averaged 12.5 yards per carry.
It is wild that we didn't lead with that. It's wild that all of that happened, and we're still This is like the fourth thing that we're bringing up.
It's because I think it's because we're just kind of used to it. The underrated part is DJ Giddens.
Yes.
I don't feel like he's still not getting the respect he deserves. I'll pull up some numbers here in just a second about where K-State is at offensively running the football. DJ is leading that way. It wasn't like, yes, Avery did tuck it and run a couple of times. Those were out of passing plays. There were no designed runs for Avery Johnson against Oklahoma State from what I remember.
I don't think so.
It wasn't just a design draw, little fake on the run or the read option. It was handoffs, or he scrambled to try to open up the passing game, and he made the smart play of just sometimes you just got to tuck it and run. I know he's trying to be more of a passer. When you get out of that pocket, I think anything's game. If the space is open, just go run. On his first touchdown, the fans were yelling for him to run. I think it was the students more than anybody. I could hear it coming at my direction. Run! Kind of all said it in unison, which was kind of funny. But he said he didn't hear that. I'm talking about Avery. But he did tuck it and run. And I tell you what, going back to Avery for just a moment, the sign that Avery is at his highest confidence right now is when he scored his second touchdown. It put K-State, I think it was at 42 points.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the run. It was the way he flipped the football. I'm like, okay, Avery is feeling it. Has he arrived? Is this like the arrival moment of Avery as the starting quarterback for K-State?
You almost wish. I know that I don't think anyone in Veneer is sad that they have a bye week this week, but you almost wish that there wasn't a week off just to see if you could kind of build on that. But I don't think that's going to fade away. He looked good. He looked locked in, and this is what kind of we've been told. Coaches have seen it in practice, and we've seen it. Texas Tech was great, but it was more running than throwing. The Pop-Tarts Bowl, you had both, but it was a more subdued performance. There were one or two big plays, but this was the real deal. This was the Avery Johnson show. The
stat for the running game that I said watch out for at the beginning of the year, this could be a record-breaking number at the end of the year. Yards per carry right now, K-State averaging 6.93 yards per carry. That is second in the nation. 252.2 yards per game for the team. That's eighth in the nation. Giddens is both eighth in the country in yards per carry and yards per game. Yards per carry, 7.28. Insane number. And then yards per game is 120.8. He is now over 600 yards. The only small number he has right now is the number of touchdowns rushing the football, not including the catches. He has 2 rushing touchdowns in 5 games this year. All right, now to the defense. I was pretty pleased with the defense. I think it starts with Ollie Gordon. He was really going early, and I was like, oh, great.
Yeah.
Of course. He is going to go off on us like he did last year to spark this team. Because, what was it, last year they lost 2 in a row, South Alabama and Iowa State, and then K-State comes around into Boone Pickens, and Ollie Gordon goes off, and all of a sudden the Heisman resume is starting to be built. First quarter, yes. Rest of the game, no. Kind of felt like he was MIA, but I'll touch on more on Ollie Gordon. But what are your thoughts on the K-State defense against Oklahoma State?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like some of the other good K-State defensive performances that we've had this year. There was a bit of a feeling out period, and then they just kind of took over. I mean, you get the 3 turnovers. That's huge. It helps that Alan Bowman's bad. He is. How they don't have a better option than that. I mean, he's just noodle arm throw. I mean, it's just. I'm not an athlete by any means, so I'm sure that he would be a much better quarterback than I will. But he was throwing balls everywhere. I mean, honestly, it's a wonder that K-State only had the 2 interceptions because there were more opportunities to be had out there. I think. There were a few that I'm trying to remember, but but then the most puzzling thing is Oklahoma State just decided to put the entire game on his shoulders. Weirdly, after Ollie Gordon has 70 yards rushing in the first quarter, And, they had him running the ball. They had Alan Bowman running the ball, which makes no sense.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about Alan Bowman here a little bit, and you brought up one of the things that I wanted to say. So, and this happened in the second quarter. So, first quarter for Ollie Gordon, 9 carries, 72 yards. 1 catch, 13 yards. So they fed him 10 times. And they moved the ball down the field. They settled for field goals. Oklahoma State scored 2 touchdowns. Again, K-State gets burned on a trick play. That sucks because K-State always gets burned on trick plays, it feels like. And then the other one was in garbage time. So, and then settling for field goals, they missed a field goal. Second quarter, 2 carries, -3 yards. He also had 2 catches for 7 yards. The third quarter, 4 carries, 7 yards, no targets. In the passing game, fourth quarter, I didn't even write anything because he did not get any looks in the fourth quarter. So I think this is for a couple of reasons. One, K-State changed a few things. Focused in on Ollie Gordon, I think, a little bit more. Took away the big play, that's for sure. And that's not just the guys in the box. That's also, secondary, I thought, got a little bit more aggressive. Pressed a little bit more. You saw more, better man-to-man coverage, which I was really hoping to see. Better man-to-man coverage, and that led to a couple of major interceptions. I also think the chemistry between Bowman and Ollie Gordon was way off after that first quarter. I saw it at least 3 times while rewatching the game. There were miscommunications. And I think some of that had to do with them just maybe not being on the same page, but also K-State started to bring some pressure, started to dial it up a little bit more and put some pressure on the offense and on the offensive line and on Alan Bowman, especially on third downs. And I loved that Klanneman was dialing up these third down pressures and Bowman was getting in a bit of a hurry, throwing some bad balls or maybe not being patient enough when he did have a solid pocket and letting it go. He would throw them early or throw them late or off and led to a couple of interceptions. Ollie Gordon was visibly upset with Alan Bowman in this game a few times. So the offense for Oklahoma State, who did move the football, was still at the same time not getting along and not in sync. And K-State was able to capitalize, and that needed to happen after some rough possessions for the defense against BYU.
Yeah, I mean, I especially think this was a good bounce back game for the secondary in particular. They get beat on the flea flicker. I mean, you just gotta take that. I mean, it sucks, but you only let it happen once, and there are at least 2 really, really good receivers on Oklahoma State's roster in Striblings and Presley, studs, and the fact that you hold them pretty, I mean, they got what you have the yards over there. What do they look
Total
like?
yards for Oklahoma State?
Yeah, for passing yards.
Oh, passing yards was 364.
And that's, I mean, you take away the flea flicker 77 yards, I think.
Yep.
So that's a little misleading. You take that away, and then you take away that last long drive that they had. They really bottled him up really well, and that's that plus the 2 interceptions, including, Jacob Parrish's interception was incredible. An incredible pick.
That was my biggest difference for that secondary. They turned their heads around and made plays on the ball.
Yeah.
We'd been, who was it, Jordan Riley against Tulane? I think this happened again as well. It happened against BYU where we're getting lost in the secondary or not making the right plays or not making the right decisions. Those changed against Oklahoma State. That was a big difference for me. I know that because Keegan just getting his head turned around, and who was saying in postgame, I think it was
Marquise Siegel.
Marquise Siegel was like, hey, I've been telling him, just get your head turned around. You're going to make that play. Well, guess what? He did.
He did.
It's a phenomenal play. Kleiman said it's one of the best interceptions he's ever seen. And it's up there for me as well. Cats are 4-1 once again. They defeat the Oklahoma State Cowboys 42-20, the final score. Alan Bowman, 26 of 50 for 364, 1 touchdown. and a couple of interceptions. K-State allowed Oklahoma State on the ground just 4.2 yards per carry. That yardage went up. That average went up in garbage time. It was way better than that before the last two possessions. In garbage time, they were able to get that number a little bit up. It should have stayed under 4. Another dominant performance by K-State's defense stopping the run. We take a timeout on Wildcat Insider, and when we come back to Avery Johnson. We're going to hear an abbreviated version of his press conference after the game. Number 2 had 5 total touchdowns against Oklahoma State. His thoughts after the win is next on Wildcat Insider.
You're listening to Wildcat Insider.
Microphone got all messed up there for a second.
That microphone is always giving me problems in the morning. That button.
Not the button, it's like the actual microphone. It kind of turned on me, and I was like, oh, this is not good. I got
the button's always sticking, and you got to like really jam down on it. And
Paul?
Yeah, I talked to Paul this morning.
Paul? Where you at?
Told him to get some WD-40. That microphone used to droop all the time, but Dan from Blueville Nursery fixed it. He got a little
shout out to Dan.
Yeah, shout out Dan Russell.
By the way, Dan, he's pretty entertaining.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
I like Dan a lot.
I tune in. I like to hear what he has to say.
Dan's a good guy. He's a good guy.
I'm not the biggest flowers or plants or garden guy, but...
So I didn't know anything about horticulture before I started hosting that show. And now I know a little bit. And I like our talk. I liked being with Dan. I couldn't do it last week, but I hope to see him again on Friday. So I really enjoy my shows with Dan.
Well, the Cats planted Oklahoma State Saturday, 42-20, the final score, getting K-State to 4-1 on the year. Some notes about this win. First of all, DJ Giddens, how about that 66-yard touchdown run? The longest run of his career. The previous was 51 against Tulane a few games prior. DJ had 3 runs over 30 yards, 66, 37, and 31. They're actually all pretty close to one another when it comes to getting going Saturday against the Pokes. So how about this? K-State has 8 runs of 30 yards or more this year. That is the second most in the nation. Anybody know who has the most this year? Anybody got an educated guess who has the most 30-yard runs in college football this year?
Army.
K-State and Army tied for the second most, along with Iowa.
Okay. Who else is really good running the ball? Michigan?
Give you a hint. They played a late game this past Saturday, and they run it a lot.
Oh, is it Utah?
No. Not Utah.
Okay.
Arizona?
Nope.
No.
Wrong game.
Okay.
The other game at night. All right, I'm just going to tell you. It's Boise State.
Oh, that makes sense.
Boise State. They're running a lot. They have a running back.
Genty.
Jeffrey, or Jeff, whatever his name is.
I thought it was Gentry.
Anyway,
but yeah.
I don't know if there's an R at the end.
Tell you what, though, I think on average, because he is the leading rusher. Oh, Genty?
Yeah, Genty.
Ashton Genty. Yeah. 13 rushing touchdowns in 4 games.
Yeah, he's a stud. He's incredible.
I mean, on average, when it comes to average carries per game, yeah, DJ is running it a few more times than the most of these guys. Compared to the other 7 who's ranked ahead of him in yards per game this year, yeah, they're up there. How about this? How about this other nugget as well? And this kind of blew me away. Very surprised about this. So, K-State has won back-to-back against ranked teams, with the 31-7 win over Arizona, and then beating Oklahoma State. So. First, I lost my spot here. Give me 2 seconds. I lost my spot here. Okay, so that is the first time K-State has won consecutive home games over ranked teams in the top 25 since 1995.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't believe that. I swore. I mean, 97, 98, 99, 2000 through 2000. I would have assumed at some point K-State would have played back-to-back home games against top 25s and beat them. No, 1995 was the last time they had done that. A win over number 6 KU and then beat number 25 Oklahoma in back-to-back home games in 1995. Crazy.
That is crazy.
All right, Tim, I got another question for you about Avery Johnson. Let's go back to the first half. Avery touchdown drive first series. Next three series, nothing going. That was capped off by a pretty rough interception that gave Oklahoma State good field position. Be honest with me. How are you feeling at that point?
It was not good. It was.
Yeah.
I mean, the missed field goal helped.
They survived it, right?
Oklahoma State missing a field goal helped, but it was looking like we were watching a very similar show that we watched the week before. Just a strong start, and then kind of everything slowly coming apart.
Because, I mean, timing-wise, it wasn't, the final 2 minutes of the first half, but it was 7 or, 8, 7, somewhere in there, minutes left in the second quarter. It was kind of like you just hoped it didn't snowball. Mm-hmm. Because it was a bad throw. It really was. Sorry, Avery, but it was. DJ was right in front of you, and you air-mailed it right to Corey Black of Oklahoma State. But, Tim, you made reference to this clip that I'm about to play from Chris Kleiman after the game. Obviously, Avery after that was phenomenal in every phase, from throwing, running, being smart with the football. And going back to Avery's throwing, saw that a few days prior at practice being just absolutely on point.
On Thursday, Wellesley and I talked about this. He may have been like 32 of 35. And I grabbed him on Friday morning and I said, that's as on point as I've seen you in a practice. And it was really good throws in tight windows. And so I see a guy that's gaining a lot of confidence. So we were going to be more aggressive, especially on some early downs. And I thought he really delivered today.
And they were aggressive. There was really only one point. And again, I mean, you could be so nitpicky with play calling. And it's definitely one of those jobs that seem easier than they actually are. You got to know the team. You got to know the flow. That's, and you obviously you pull out plays you think you'll be good against that particular defense. That is not an easy job whatsoever. I think Connor Riley did a pretty good job, a great job calling plays against Oklahoma State. I think there was like one play. It was like a 3rd and 1 they decided to throw it. I was like, that's probably a little too much, but I think that may have been the play that Avery scored a touchdown on, or one of the plays that Avery scored a touchdown by running the football. But the media after the game caught up with the sophomore quarterback, number 2, Avery Johnson. Here's an abbreviated version of that press conference.
Hey, was this a statement win today?
I guess you could say so. It was really just how poorly we played last week. We just wanted to kind of come out and just play free and play our game, because we know what we put on tape last week wasn't us. So definitely confident win for us this week, but still got to get ready for Colorado.
Avery, it seemed like you played your best football after you threw your interception today. What was your mindset there, and how did you pull that off?
Really just want to give a lot of credit to Coach True. And he gave me a book this week, and it's called It Takes What It Takes. And he picked out a few pages for me to read in that book. And it was written by, Russell Wilson's mental health coach. And the pages were pretty much talking about when Russell Wilson threw 4 picks in the playoffs, and then pretty much back against the wall, his mindset never changed, and he's up leading his guys, head up, confidence, all the confidence in the world in himself, and he just goes out there and plays free, and they end up winning that game. And that just really gave me a lot of confidence. Things aren't always going to go my way, and the biggest thing, especially from a young quarterback, is how are you going to respond when adversity hits. And I did a poor job last week of responding in adverse times, and a big focus for this week was just not letting any pressure or any of that type of stuff get to me this week, and just going out and playing free and playing my game.
Avery, you got your first 2 rushing touchdowns of the season today. How cool was that for you, and knowing everything with Dr. Botts to get some balls in the end zone for you?
Yeah, it was a really good feeling, because it's crazy with how much I run the ball. I hadn't seen the end zone yet this year, so I got to do a better job of getting in, and whenever we get the ball on the inside that 5, punching it in there. But definitely just how talented DJ did today, and what he did when the football in his hands on the run game, it definitely opened up some things for me, and we were passing the ball at a high level today. So credit to those 5 guys up front for opening up some holes for me to run in, and definitely it's a big plus whenever you can score touchdowns and make some extra money to help a good cause.
Go through that last touchdown run you had.
Yeah, it was that was one of the most fun moments I've had in football, and not just college football, but football in general, because the guy, we weren't expecting that look that the Will linebacker had kind of wrapped to add in on the pressure, and if he didn't pressure, I'd probably throw a touchdown to Dylan. And I was gonna roll out right, but I kind of just had this instinct to spin back out of it. Got my eyes outside on the scramble to try to maybe find J-Jack. J-Jack did a good job of taking that corner with him outside, just kind of gave him a little pump, and then kind of used the momentum of those guys and pursue against them to just kind of cut back and slip right under for the touchdown.
Avery, Coach Kleiman mentioned that you had one of your best practices, leading up to today. Talk about, what confidence and what comfort and looseness and, just fun that instilled into the kind of performance today.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been my biggest critic, and I'll always be my biggest critic, but I think I let it get to the point where it was kind of holding me down a little bit, and I was being a little bit too hard on myself. And our coaches say it all the time, I can't put the weight of the world on my shoulders. I have to let everybody else on the field and in the facility help me out, and not try to do too much whenever I do have the ball in my hands. So a lot of people in the facility and a lot of my teammates, put a lot of confidence into my brain this week and allowed me to go out there and play free. And I think I play my best whenever I have a clear headspace.
Can you take us through the Will Ancio touchdown? I know you guys are in the same recruiting class and everything, so take us through that.
Yeah, we were talking about it all week. Coach Wells was saying either he gets it or it goes out of the back of the end zone. And being able to have a big target like that, a guy that played basketball, a guy I played basketball with and against in high school, I knew if I just put the ball up, he was going to go get it. So I was kind of keying off one of their defenders and saw him kind of getting the run fit, and I was going a little bit too fast, so I kind of had to step back a little bit so I didn't go past line of scrimmage, and then just a little jump pass, as you see guys do all over. So definitely a really good play call and one we were expecting to hit, and it did.
How big was DJ's performance, just getting that balance for you guys?
DJ did a really good job today, and I think that's the most yards he's ran for this year. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, and that might be the lowest amount of carries he's had this year. So just the efficiency that he was able to run the ball with today, I think, again, you have to give credit to those 5 guys up front for opening up those holes for him, and then credit to him for not letting, one guy bring him down and running the ball hard, and whenever he gets out in that foot race, winning today.
I don't know about that, but it was his longest carry that he's had in his career.
What pass did you feel like today was your best throw?
It was, we were moving the pocket. It was what we call our dash series. We were rolling out to the right, and J-Jack kind of had a corner route, and I threw it on the sideline to him. It was one he caught on the sideline on the run, rolling out to my right. So that was probably, that throw right there put a lot of confidence in my brain, in my head.
Once again, that's Avery Johnson after the game against Oklahoma State, and what a win that was for the Cats. Got them back on track now they just got to take the show on the road and perform on the road. But Avery finished 19 of 31 for 259, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Longest pass was, it was to Jace Brown. 78 yards, the longest pass and longest reception for both gentlemen, either to one another or, in their careers. And Avery Johnson on the ground, finishing 5 carries, 60 yards. He averaged 12 yards per carry. We take another timeout. When we come back, let's take a look at the Big 12 standings. And last week in the Big 12, how about the Kansas Jayhawks playing a home game in the state of Missouri? And as a result, Mizzou fans and probably K-State fans as well really enjoyed, as KU still struggles to win football games. The Big 12 last week, next.
You're listening to Wildcat Insider.
Oh, Cats. 4-1, back on track. Bye week. A couple of weeks are back in Boulder for the first time in a decade and a half. Just
14
about.
years, yep.
14, there we go. As that game's going to kick off at 9:15. We'll talk more about that in hour number 2. It'll give you more of an explanation on why. You can probably guess a few reasons why these later kickoffs are now more of a thing. Just don't be blaming the Big 12. Well, I guess you can blame the Big 12 a little bit, but if you're going to blame the Big 12, blame the Big 10, SEC. Just the landscape of college football in general with conference realignment. More the blame in that direction.
Blame the lack of a Pac-12 conference.
All right, let's take a look at the Big 12 this past week, week number 5. We could start actually with the late game because I thought this was a pretty interesting and big game, even though Cam Rising once again warms up but doesn't play. It was Arizona at number 10, Utah. Utah goes down 23-10. Isaac Wilson, once again, the starting quarterback. I don't know if you watched any of this, but I watched the first 3 quarters. In the fourth, it was over. My actually big takeaway was Arizona's defense, because they did not allow Utah to run the football. They made Isaac Wilson throw it. Arizona was running the football pretty well. Like, heck, I think Tedderell and McMillan only had 50 yards in the game. They didn't need him, really.
Yeah, I was impressed of how good they looked in the trenches after what happened in Manhattan. Maybe partially due to, bye weeks are good. Bye weeks help. Bye weeks help you figure things out. But I would imagine that, especially with kind of some of the youth that they have, maybe Arizona is a good one that K-State kind of got out of the way
big time.
Early.
I agree. That's a good point. And I figured Utah's defense, even without Cam Rising, when they played Oklahoma State, I still went with Utah because of their defense. They can be real shut down. You're not gonna score on us type of defense, and they were for the most part against Oklahoma State. They give up 23 points, and that's enough for Arizona to get the victory. I was going to try to see if I could look up total yards, because I think Utah, it was separated by 2 yards. Arizona led by 2 yards in total yardage. Iowa State-Houston was a huge snooze fest. Yeah. Other than Houston, Ollie Fritz really mixed up the quarterbacks, because they were bringing in different quarterbacks to do different things. Donovan Smith was running it a little bit more, and Zion Chris didn't really throw it, but he was more of just a running quarterback, and then Donovan Smith was trying to do the passing stuff. But really, it was more just running the football. Can these QBs run the football a little bit more, get the QB run game going? Iowa State still blanked them 20-0.
Yeah, I mean, and it was only 10-0 going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, again, boring.
But they're good. Iowa State's good.
I'm still not sold.
Their defense is good.
Only scoring 20 points on Houston.
I mean, that's a good point.
Houston's a terrible defense. I don't know. I'm not sold yet. Boy, I think we're a little bit more sold now on BYU, especially their start in Waco. I don't think Baylor's that good, but you scored 21 super early. It was a 34-28 final. I don't think that final score told the whole story, but I think Jake Retzloff is doing a pretty solid job throwing the football. And BYU, I never would have thought they would have been 5-0 at this point.
LSU defensive coordinator Dave Aranda coming soon.
You think so? He's done?
Oh, I don't know, man.
Cooked.
I don't know what games they're going to win, but it's not good.
Okay, so just kind of going down the list here. Kansas City, Arrowhead Stadium, Missouri. KU playing a home game, and we thought maybe a few days ago something was up with the contracts. They weren't having a place to play. Now they were having a place to play. They just had to figure out a few more things. But KU, I mean, they take, what was it, where they were up 20 or tied at 17, right? Tied at 17, or was it 21-17 and a half? TCU was leading it. It led for a good chunk of this game. But KU gives up a punt return for a touchdown. They wanted a block in the back. There were a couple of penalties that either didn't happen or took place that KU fans did not agree with. There was a fumble involved. But after it's all said and done, it got a little chaotic. But a terribly attended game. And KU has now lost 4 in a row. TCU wins game number 3, beating KU 38-27.
Yeah, Kelly Leipold's not going to like that attendance for sure.
No.
For sure.
Surprised she didn't tweet about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of spiraling and just taking a peek at their schedule.
Well, and Jalen Daniels, he only turned it over one time, and that was on the last possession. He turned it over one time, and then they lose by 2 scores. So he's better, yet they lose by more points.
It's bad. It's a mess over there.
Good luck, lackluster Lance, to figure that one out. I'm, for one, enjoying it. It actually became a pretty entertaining game, but it's TCU who gets it done. I watched the last quarter and a half, but, just some big plays.
And TCU's still gross, too. So that's the other thing. Is like,
TCU doesn't have a defense.
No.
And still they weren't bad.
And still you only score, 27 points, 3 touchdowns total.
Did you watch Colorado UCF?
I did a little bit. This was surprising.
UCF was like a 2-touchdown favorite, and they get smacked.
Yeah.
I mean, it was over at halftime.
RJ Harvey.
It was a 2-score game.
77 yards total. And, I mean, he came in as I thought.
UCF can only run the ball.
Yeah.
I am not a KJ Jefferson fan.
No, and neither was I.
I thought 2 years ago, okay, he could be something for Arkansas. He should be really good. No, he stunk. And he's not any better at UCF. They can only run the ball with RJ Harvey and who's the other one? Blanking on the other guy they like to run. But anyway, Shadur Sanders throws for 290, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. They actually ran the ball a little bit, $128 on the ground. Just 4.5 yards per carry. I think K-State can shut that down in a couple of weeks. It's the passing game that can be a little bit scary.
28 for 35. You had 7 incompletions in the entire game, threw the ball 35 times.
I mean, Colorado, this game is a lot more interesting in Boulder now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
In 12 days, even though it's 9:15, Colorado is actually surprisingly not ranked.
They should be.
They only got 1 vote in the AP. Do they not have any media that votes?
I don't know. I think that maybe people are got some fatigue, and it's maybe going to take probably them beating K-State to get them on the national stage, because they have a bye week this week too, right?
They do. We're both coming off a bye week.
Yeah.
So, but Colorado is going to be hosting this game. It's another late kickoff, and boy, it's a bigger one. And I thought we'll break it down in the second hour why. Again, it's a late kickoff while ESPN is getting that broadcast, so we can break it all down here a little bit. But that's a much bigger game. Colorado seems like a much more quality opponent that's going to be here in a couple of weeks. That's going to wrap up hour number 1 of Wildcat Insider. Hour number 2 coming up next with the voice of the Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson on KMAN.